Okay, this is the circular flow model of economic activity. So, what we like to start with is some sort of product, and our product is purchased at the product market. This is where buyer and seller come together. So you have the supply side and the demand side, and this is going to be where they meet. Okay? A product market can be online, it can be in person. That's where the goods and services and the person who wants to purchase that come together. Okay? So in the product market, where you have supply, which is the people who make the stuff, and demand, the people that buy the stuff, this is where they meet to make a transaction. And they do what's called voluntary exchange. So those goods and services, that's what G&S stands for, goods and services, those are produced by a business or a firm. So think of that as kind of a factory, or where the supply of that item comes from. So I'll put a big S over here, which stands for supply. So the supply is sent on a truck or something like that. If you like to draw, you can make a little truck, That's probably the worst truck I've ever drawn. But there's a truck, and that's how the stuff gets there, right? So in exchange for those goods and services, something like Kroger or Walmart, they would have to pay for it and send money. So then you got to think to yourself, all right, well, where does that business get the supplies they need to make their product? So say it's a loaf of bread. That says bread. So if it's a loaf of bread, then that loaf of bread is made by someone like Mrs. Baird's or some bread factory. So what they're going to need to make that is called the factors of production. Factors of production. That's FOP. So the factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So we use the symbol K for capital. It's not potassium, but it is stolen because we're going to use C for consumption later. So land, the first L, is all the natural resources, like wheat and the dirt and the water to grow all that stuff. Okay, the labor, if you like to draw, you can put a little stick figure, make them her a hand if you want to. Labor would be the people, right? Okay, so the people, those are our human capital. That's our skills, our ability, our knowledge, all that stuff. So the capital that we have over here is going to be R for real and $ for money. So we have financial capital, and I can zoom in. I thought I could zoom in. We have financial capital, which is the $, and R for real. So financial capital is like a loan or some kind of money that you take to buy real capital, the tools, the machines, all the things that you would need in order to produce. Okay? And last, the E is entrepreneurship. So land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship are the 4 factors of production that a business would need in order to produce the final goods and services that arrive at the product market. A final good is one that is ready to be sold. It has everything included in it, which includes intermediate goods, which includes labor. All those prices and things go into that. And those factor into how we determine how much GDP we make, how much stuff we make for an entire year in the economy. But those things aren't free. So the business of the firm, guess what? They're going to have to send money. So that's why that one's in green. So they have to send money in order to purchase these things from the factor or resource market. Okay? So this factor or resource market down here is where we are going to put our land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship up for sale. So if we go over here, we have consumers, or we have households. So this is going to be the demand side, the people who want to buy stuff, capital D. So the land for a factory originally belonged to a person out in the community, not a business. Okay? So when you guys graduate from college or something like that, you're going to upload your resume to Indeed or Monster or some place, and you're going to put your labor out in the factor market hoping to get hired for sale. And that would be a factor of production. So your resume is where you upload it and you're saying, hey, I want to make $100,000. I have a degree in engineering. Here I am. Here's my accolades and everything else. We put our land for sale. We put our labor, our ideas. We put our financial capital in the bank for people to borrow and get real capital in order to make all these things. So the people of the United States, or any economy, we are what drive the whole economy, because we put all our stuff out there into this model. Okay. Now, in exchange for our land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, we would like to get paid. That's the whole point. And we're going to get paid with wages, with rent, with interest, or with profits. So this WR, that's an I with a percent sign, that's the nominal interest rate or profit. Wages means we're working for someone, they're paying us at the factory to help produce their item. Rent means someone owns the building the factory's in and someone pays them money for it. Profit means if you mow lawns and your mower's paid off and you pay for your gas, the leftover money is the profit you make. So these are all what we call our income. And if you add all four of these up, they will equal our GDP. So gross domestic product is all the things that are made within a year on American soil and our final product. Now, if we add up all the things that we earn as income that pays for these products that are derived in this supply side market, that will still equal our GDP. Okay? Now, we are Americans. What do we do when we get paid? We're going to go shopping, aren't we? We're going to go spend it, right? Isn't that why we like to have it? Okay? So now we're going to actually arrive at the product market. And this is going to be C for consumption. So that consumption should have been drawn in green. Sorry, y'all. Just realized I did that. So consumption is us going to spend that money. I should use green Sharpie and a green highlighter, because this is what everybody looks at. How much are we consuming? So our consumption is a huge, huge part. And of course, what we want in exchange for our consumption is those goods and services. We want those final products. So at the product market, we're going to take our income as demanders. That means willing and ability to purchase. Willing means we want it. Able means we have the money. Supply means they have the product and they're willing to sell it. So when we meet here, where these two arrows combine, at the product market, we'll have VE, what's called voluntary exchange. That means I'm happy to give you the money, you're happy to sell me the product, and we both walk away in better shape, better condition. Okay? So this is called expenditure. These are expenditures, and there are four of these. There's consumption, there's what we call gross private investment. So investment means where you purchase, say you go to purchase a computer for your business as a product, that would be an investment for you. If you're Kroger and you buy 500,000 bags of Fritos, that's an investment. That's an inventory. That counts as investment. Okay? Anything you buy that's real capital can be considered investment. It's not the stock market, anything like that. And so investment in this class is about the K, the capital. Okay? Didn't mean to say K after that. Okay? So we have C for consumption, I for investment. You have G for government spending, which we'll get to right here in a second. And then we have net exports, which is exports minus imports. So anytime you see the word net, that means we're going to be subtracting something. Okay, so your gross pay and your net pay, if you have a job, you'd like to keep your gross pay, but you got to take out taxes and other things like Social Security, FICA, all that, and you get your net pay. So X minus M is exports minus imports. So if you were to add these four up, Sig X, you would also equal GDP. So in theory, our expenditures equals our GDP, or our income equals GDP. So add up all of our income or add up all of our expenditures, and they are equal. And you can look at it from both approaches. But because people manipulate income so much by paying cash and taking deductions out of their taxes and all that stuff, the expenditure method is the most common. And we'll look at that one the most often. Okay? Because Sig X, which you'll hear a lot, C plus I plus G plus X, equals our GDP, and that in turn will end up equaling our aggregate demand. So all this side over here, if we add up the whole economy, that will be our aggregate demand. Over here, if we take just one business that makes bread, plus all the businesses in the United States, that would make our aggregate supply. When I finish the video, I'll do a question right after that. Okay. So now, right here in the middle, once we have the ways that we spend money and earn money and where all the products go, we can't forget who's in the middle of everything. That would be the government. Okay. So out of this model, the two that are going to send tax to the government are going to be the businesses and the people. So you have individual income tax and you have corporate income taxes. Now in exchange for those items, we would want to get services from our government. Military, fire, police, roads, bridges, all kinds of things. Anything can be government. Okay. Now, government can also be a purchaser in the product market, because I guarantee in some government office today, there's a fresh pot of coffee, there's donuts, there's something paid for with tax dollars, right? And they don't make them; they go buy them, don't they? So our government goes to purchase in the product market, and that is called government spending. So that G matches this one over here as an expenditure. And in exchange for our government spending, they are going to get goods and services. The government can also hire people. The government is made up of us as the consumers and households. So the government can also get land, labor, capital, and I won't say entrepreneurship because it's the government, but what they do is they send money to the factory market and they look at resumes and they hire people. They buy land and turn it into a missile base or whatever they want to. So that is also known as government spending. So in this model, the money is going to flow in one way, goods and services are going to flow in another way, taxes are going to be paid to the government, government spending is going to be done in the product market and in the factory market, and in exchange for those, they would give out services of the government and get the factors of production or goods and services to keep the government going. If you were to divide this entire model in half, you now have the demand side of the economy and you have the supply side. So in a simple model like this, you get our entire economy and how everything should be functioning.